Live from the Motor City, all the way to the Volunteer State. It's time for the Reckless Speculation Podcast, where we recklessly speculate the latest news in the world of sports. From college football to NASCAR, we've got you covered. And don't forget to stick around for the world-famous Bet Your Nuts, where we will give you your best bets to make the most money. Now sit back, grab your favorite drink of choice, and join Robbie Davis, Raj Mehta, Brandon Chain, and Tom Sloan. It's showtime.
Welcome everyone to this November 1st edition of Reckless Speculation. We have a college show today. We are talking about the CFP rankings and, of course, the Michigan scandal. I'll put that in air quotes because I know our good buddy and Michigan fan Tom has got something to do with that. So, Tom, welcome.
Yes, it's interesting to say the least how every day there's just a little bit more that comes out. And this Connor Stallions fella, I'm telling you, is he the new James Bond? I don't know. It's crazy. It's getting out of control, and I don't know what to think of it at this point.
We're gonna get to it in deep detail, but before we do that, on the other side of the Michigan fence is our native Buckeye, Brandon Chain. Welcome.
It couldn't happen to a better team. I love this. This is just great. Can't wait to get to it.
And of course, our fourth partner in crime can't work a clock or a calendar or a phone. He is technology challenged, and then hopefully this time change will help him be on time.
That might be bad.
Before we get started, though, a little word from our sponsors. Hey, if you are hurt, if you are unfortunately, rear-ended in a truck wreck or anything like that, and you need your day in court, your way of working through the insurance companies and all that, please feel free to call us at Davis, Kessler, and Davis. The numbers in the background, 423-267-7000. If you're arrested, I know the holidays are coming up. No one intends to get behind the wheel after having too many beverages, but it does happen. Hopefully everyone stays safe, but if something that does happen, please give us a call. Other sponsor is C&W Construction. They do the littlest things to the biggest things. And as you can see here on the screen, pools, full builds, remodels, porches, decks, a little bit of everything, but serving the greater Nashville area. You got Brentwood, Franklin, Cool Springs. Nashville is growing every day, and so those areas keep expanding. But gentlemen, welcome.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's been a couple weeks. There were some situations happening that didn't allow me to be here last week, so glad to be back. Get this thing going again.
And without further ado, hey, Tennessee sitting there at 17th in the initial CFP rankings. So I will take a little bit of a back seat and let you guys talk about, the top four. Let's just start about overall. Tom, we'll start with you. Since your team is not ranked number one, what were your initial thoughts about the top four?
I'm going to say I was a bit surprised. I'm surprised that the committee didn't rule Georgia as number one, for the simple fact that they're back-to-back college football playoff champions. They're still undefeated, although they really haven't had much of a test thus far. And Michigan being at 3, I think I look at it this way. I think there's a little bit of what's going on at play with the program, and I believe that they're kind of holding judgment until after the Penn State game, just to see if their success is legit or not. So I can understand that. Ohio State is number 1 based on their strength of schedule. Go to Notre Dame and they win, and they beat Penn State at home. So I guess I can't say that I'm surprised. The 4 teams seem to be right in my estimation. I don't know if this is a true indication of the reality of the top 4, but as we've seen in previous years, the top 4 of the very first college football rankings doesn't look anything remotely like it does at the end of the season. So this is going to change week to week, and I think Michigan stays pretty much where they're at because they haven't really played anybody. And I've been a huge opponent of their schedule the past 2 seasons. So, and I've always said it's going to come back to bite them in the rear end at some point. It's happening right now, but I think in a couple weeks, 3 weeks or 2 weeks, when they go to Penn State, we're going to get a good indication on, how good this team really is. And obviously on November 25th, when the showdown in Ann Arbor happens. So, but for now, I mean, I think the committee could have flip-flopped Ohio State with Georgia, but it's really not a big deal at this point. So it's close enough.
Well, and let me follow up on something with you. And you brought it up, and we're going to talk about it more. I myself was kind of surprised that Michigan wasn't at 4, and I'll tell you why. Because moving them at 4, putting them at 4 in this rankings, if they do lose, you can drop them down pretty far to where they're not in the conversation anymore.
Yeah.
So I was surprised putting them at 3, and then they're. I mean, I don't know if Florida State doesn't have enough in the tank left to jump them. There's just not. The ACC's terrible, so they're gonna stay slotted above FSU, I think. So I was surprised at that. Were you? I know you said you didn't. They know that you thought there was some bias of what was going on, but I thought it was the other way.
Yeah, I think even though the committee came out and said that, that's the NCAA's job to decide punishment or whatnot, if that's going to happen. Their job is to rank the teams. I'm not buying it. I feel like there is some sort of a notch down for the simple fact of what's happening. But when you look at it, the reality is they're trying to avoid a semifinal matchup between Michigan and Ohio State. I don't know if the rest of the country outside of Brandon and I would want to see a back-to-back, so to speak, or the 25th and then whatever the first round of the CFP would be. But I think they're trying to avoid that. That seemed to be the case last season. And also I think they're setting it up to where the loser of the game on the 25th gets out of the playoff, because last year, obviously, Ohio State makes it after losing. And I'm not too sure the committee was very happy with the results. Both Big Ten teams, and they both lose out in the first round. So I think they're trying to correct their mistake from last year. But, again, I don't think anything happens.
That placement last year led to a blowout in the finals.
Right.
And so it's going to be curious because we've seen this with Georgia and Alabama, in the previous years. It worked out that Georgia and Alabama both won, and they had great games at the end.
Sure.
But that game last year was terrible. Brandon, I was sitting in your shoes this time a year ago when Tennessee was number 1 in the initial football rankings. Tell me what your thoughts are about where Ohio State lands in the overall top 4.
I mean, they're in the top 4 in my opinion. You can kind of mix the Michigan Ohio State, Georgia around, I guess, depending on what you value more, whether it be strength of schedule, eye test, back-to-back champion, whatever it is. Right now, it's a formality at this point. It's going to play itself out, and we're going to find out who's going to be there. So, yeah, number one, that's probably it was cool to see, but I mean, just because of the two signature wins, other than that, like our offense, we still got a lot of work there to do. So to call us a number one team right now, we're definitely top four, but I don't know. I've seen some better offenses out there. But now, not to take away from our defense, defense has been phenomenal. Obviously a top 3 defense in the country. So, we'll see how it plays out. I mean, literally,
it's going to play itself out.
Yeah, it's November 25th. I mean, that's the game.
I wouldn't have had any issue with the top 4 if it was this time last week. I think what Georgia did to Florida's not great, but they're still talented, and they haven't lost in God knows how long.
And what Georgia's been able to do without Brock Bauer the last 2 weeks.
I just don't know how you say, until proven otherwise, they're my number one team. But like you guys said, it doesn't matter right now.
I agree, but obviously strength of schedule is a huge play in their eyes. So but Florida is, let's be honest, they're not a good team this year. They haven't been a good team. Now they've shown a couple highlights here and there, but they're not a good team.
And everyone knows I'm no Georgia apologist, but I think Georgia is getting penalized. You're number 2. You're not really getting penalized, but they are getting dinged from something that's out of their control. They were scheduled to play, I think, Oklahoma. And then because they're going to play Oklahoma next year in the SEC, they changed around their schedule. I think I have that right.
So the first rankings last season had Tennessee 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, and Clemson 4. So 2 of those 4 teams obviously didn't make the college football playoffs. So it's going to change. There's going to be a lot of changes, I think.
For sure. It's a formality.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about something that may not be a formality. Who got hosed? Brandon, start with you.
Washington, obviously. Pac-12, we said it time and time again on this podcast. They've been the strongest conference in our eyes. Now, USC's fallen off quite a bit. But Oregon still looks strong. And that win over Oregon, in my eyes, kind of
especially after what Oregon just did to Utah.
Kind of catapults them up there, I would think. And it's unfortunate. Florida State, it's a toss up. Like, I like Washington slightly better, but there's an argument on both sides for who's got that 4th spot.
Yeah.
Tom, what about you?
I can't disagree, because I think Washington has done enough on paper to say that they belong in the top 4, and for the simple fact that the Pac-12 statistically is the best conference in football in the country. So have they kind of stumbled a little bit the previous couple of weeks? Sure, but that was bound to happen at some point. Bottom line is they've won. They've pulled victories out. But that Oregon win really should have propelled them, because in my mind, my eye test right now tells me that Oregon might be the best team in college football.
Yeah.
What they did to Utah last week at Utah, which they hadn't lost a game in, I believe it was 18 straight. They haven't lost at home.
Yeah.
Great student section, the Muck. So that was, and that game wasn't even close. Right out the rip, Oregon dominated and took control. But the eye test tells me it's Oregon. But the committee's gonna do what they do. And the bottom line here is Big Ten winner, SEC winner, Pac-12 winner, and I think Florida State's gonna, or whoever comes out of the ACC, maybe, or long shot another Big Ten or SEC team. I just think that the committee has to get it right this year because it's the last year in the 4-team format. So there might be some butthurt college fans.
But do they got to get it right though? Like, because now they're changing.
I think they have to. I really do. But
if they don't, it's like a rinse and repeat. Like,
sure.
Now we're going
it's we're getting it right next year.
So I mean, I think Washington has the best win of this season, beating Oregon, who, like you said, Tom, maybe the best team. To me, who got hosed is Oklahoma. Like, I'm not one of those people that says, "Oh, just because you beat somebody, you're better," because bad days at the office happen. But
are you saying they got hosed because they beat Texas and Texas is now 2 spots ahead of them?
Yes,
I still think Texas is a better team.
Now Texas has a better. Well, I mean, but this is the interesting part to me: 6 through 9 or 6 through 10, even because if Ole Miss goes and beats Georgia,
6 through 10 is the hardest to rank in my opinion.
I mean, like how
Penn State shouldn't be 11, by the way. I think they should be like 15 or 16.
Mm-hmm.
I do too. But how is Oklahoma ever going to jump Texas now? And they beat them. Absent, I mean, I guess the Big 12 championship game.
Big 12 championship. Which, depending on what happens ahead of them, could catapult them up there.
And so Tom, you left the Big 12 out of you. We'll get there. We'll get there. But I think they got hosed. I thought
I'm gonna go back. I realize I did that. No, I think the Big 12 winner possibly gets in. It's going to be a toss up between the Big 12 and the ACC winners coming up to fill that last spot.
So if LSU, okay, let's all right. Let's right now. Tom, you've kind of given a little bit of a preview, but where do you think it ends up? Where the 4 come from?
Barring any Big Ten intervening or NCAA saying we're going to shut down Ann Arbor, I think Michigan ends up number 1. I think, gosh, I'm not sold on Georgia winning the SEC. I think Oregon number 2. Gosh, I'm going to put it back up on the screen. Oregon number 2. Oh man, I think Alabama's going to beat Georgia in the SEC championship. So Alabama number 3. And then we'll go, man. I'm going to go Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma will beat Texas in the Big 12 because Ewer's injury. I think that really is going to come into play.
All right, so I'm going to press you on this now. So, is Georgia going to lose besides Alabama?
I think they lose to Tennessee. I do. I do. So that could change a lot of things. So, I will say I feel like Milton has been playing better. I think they've kind of dummied down the offense a little bit for him, and he's looked better. The first half against Alabama, they looked really good, but then forgot to come out of the
who does Florida State lose to?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I don't think Florida State's a number 4 team in the country. I just don't.
Brandon, before I get to your where you think we end up this year, does an undefeated Florida State team have a seat at the table?
Well, they're there right now. I mean, how can you take them out?
That's tough.
How do you take them out?
Let's say LSU loses this weekend in Alabama.
LSU is going to beat Alabama this weekend, in my opinion.
Oh,
Okay,
that's a little foreshadowing for
yeah.
Bet Your Nuts.
Let's just say they don't. LSU drops out of the top 25. Florida State has no top 25 wins.
They don't, but they're the head of the SEC or ACC, and when they boat race Clemson again in the championship, well, Clemson probably won't even be in the championship.
No, it'll be probably
Louisville.
Louisville. Well, they'll beat them. I mean, they're already there. Like you can't take them out for winning. Like who are they going to lose to?
All right. Well, okay. All right. Give me your Final Four right now. Where you see it going?
Well, that's number 4. I could see Oregon or Washington sneak in, depending on what the Big Ten does. After we beat Michigan in Ann Arbor, I think we'll be number 2, and I think Georgia will be number 1.
If that happens, Brandon, there's no question you'd be number 1 in my opinion.
I know. I was being humble, I guess. We shouldn't be number 1 right now. It would have been better to chase.
So you have the Big 12 getting knocked out.
I just think the committee looks at strength of schedule, and I think they're really going to pay attention to conference strength, and that's why I don't know if the ACC gets in. I don't, and I see where you're coming from.
I know, but it's going to be hard to knock them out, though. Right?
It is. It's very hard. It's very hard
unless there's some unbelievable game out of the Big 12 that catapults.
All right. Here's a scenario for you guys. Big 10 winner, they're in. Michigan, Ohio State, whoever it is, they're in. And let's say Pac-12's been the best conference all year long. Pac-12 winners in. If Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship,
no, you want 2 SEC teams in again.
Huh? No. I'm just saying, how far can you knock Georgia?
Out.
You're gonna knock a 2-time defending champ with 1 loss against a playoff team out of the playoff.
Who's Georgia played this year? That's
their toughest test might be this weekend.
They've got three ranked teams coming up.
Yeah. So,
but I mean,
we'll see how that gauntlet goes.
But how, so you keep Florida State in?
I don't think it's eye test worthy, but based on what they go by and strength of schedule, blah blah blah, and then conference champions is a big deal. If you don't win your conference championship, unless Alabama was already like up there, and then you lose late in the season to a number 5 team or something, then yes, you can still stay in. But I don't even know what's Bama ranked right now. Like
8th. They're ranked 8th behind Texas and Oregon.
I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of hypotheticals, and they got their work cut out again. That's the whole thing of changing the 4 teams, because there's always 1 or 2 teams that deserve to be there as well, and that could win. I mean, legit could win.
Who's the longest shot that can still get in?
Ooh. I think it could be Louisville or Ole Miss.
That's mine.
Because, I mean, Ole Miss only has 1 loss against Alabama. So if they run the table the rest of the way, you're looking at an SEC champion, Ole Miss. The committee loves the SEC, whether people want to admit it or not. So whoever wins the SEC is going to be in.
I don't think anyone won't admit that.
But I think this conversation would include Louisville, no question, if not their hiccup against Pitt. But them sitting at 13, they're probably the most realistic long shot. So, but if they beat Pitt, a couple weeks ago, you're questioning, are they worthy of being in the top 4 at this point?
Well, okay, so all right. So Brandon, here's a question for you. Of these four, who has the best chance? Ole Miss, Penn State, Missouri, or Louisville? Penn State, if things go right, they win the Big Ten East.
How?
Because
If they beat Michigan
if they
and
beat
then
Michigan, Michigan
loses
beats
to
Ohio
Ohio State,
State. If they're all 3-1 losses, it goes the team that has the best win over the other division. So that would be Penn State's win over Iowa. Very weird tiebreaker.
Well, thank God that scenario is not going to happen. We won't have to think about that.
no, not at all.
I'm just going to forget you even said that. I don't even know where
I
you
award
dug
you
that
no
up.
points, and you're all dumber for listening to what you just said.
That was terrible. That's, long shot for sure for me is Ole Miss. I mean, really, they got a decent shot. The stars could align for them to jump in there. So that would be my long shot. The rest of it's kind of chalk. I mean, it's going to play itself out.
Well, could Missouri get there? They got Georgia, and
if we'll have this conversation next week. If they beat Georgia, then yes. Then
and how far do they move up?
And how
they
far
beat Georgia and then can beat Alabama.
They're not going to beat Georgia, though. Let's be realistic.
That game's in Missouri. I think it's closer.
They're good.
It's 16 points for a reason. Now, maybe Missouri covers there or whatever, and that's fine. Georgia's not losing that game.
I don't see it either. So,
all right. Well, I guess real quick, which conference is in the best position to get 2 in?
Big Ten.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't know if the committee wants to do that. I think.
Well, the problem is the scandal behind Michigan right now. That's the issue, and that's going to be their bailout.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Because the reality is, if you want a competitive final, you put Michigan against Ohio State, regardless of what happens on the 25th. Mm-hmm. You make that your matchup because you're going to get a dynamite rematch. Mm-hmm. And then the winner there is clearly the first or second best team in the country. So you're going to pair them up with an Oregon or a Washington. So I think that's grounds for a really good CFP. But I think you're right, Brandon. I think no matter what happens, I think there's going to be some points lost in Michigan's favor due to this,
unfortunately
situation.
This is the last year that it matters. But just real quickly, in y'all's opinion, did the Big Ten make a mistake keeping the Ohio State-Michigan game the last game of the season?
No. It'll always be that way. And if it isn't, then it's not right.
Exactly. It has to be the last game of the season.
I've heard debates
I don't know anything
against
else.
it. No, I've heard debates against it. When they decided to do that stupid leaders and whatever conference thing.
And leaders.
Yeah, legends and leaders. They were talking about making the game earlier in the season, and the outrage of both fan bases over it basically changed their opinions. So no, it could never not be the last Saturday in November. It's a holiday.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to disagree a little bit. I think the Pac-12 is in the best position to get 2 teams in. I think Florida State trips up, and I don't think they're putting Michigan in the playoff unless they go undefeated. If they lose to Ohio State, they're not getting in.
I agree with that. And
then, all right, so speaking of Big Blue, we've all heard about it. Look, there is things going around. There are rumors every day. Rumors, speculation. That's what we're here to do. Recklessly do. If you've been living under a rock, Just briefly recap, Michigan has been accused of hiring some guy who I wish we had the SEC shorts just clip to play. Just hiring this guy to come steal signs or videotape the opposing opponent's signs on the other yard line or other sideline. They'll get tickets and just sit there and watch the 50-yard line. Brandon, I'll start with you. This has got to be very humorous for you to kind of see this smoke, this fire. But I will note, there's been nothing that Michigan has put out yet that refutes these allegations.
They can't. They're not allowed to talk about it.
Okay, we'll get to you, Mr. Defense Attorney. Brandon, what do you got to say?
What a shit show is going on here. So initially, the allegations came out, sign stealing. Okay, so what? Everyone steals signs. It's part of an in-game process. Like, you're trying to get an edge. You're trying to look and see what they're calling. Blah, 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 whatever. Well, then it just evolves from there. And now there's the guy buying tickets. Okay, that's not even that bad. All right, you go sit in a stadium. That's your right. You can go watch a game. And if you happen to pick up a few signs, whatever. But the infiltration on the sidelines,
that's not
dressed up as one of the guys. I don't know. ESPN was going at it pretty hard.
First off, ESPN's
we're gonna have to go around the horn and get Tom a mute button for this.
Anything that comes from ESPN or Pete Thamel is all clickbait. It's all misinformation.
Well, I'm gonna pass along this misinformation because I think it's hilarious. If it gets to that point, obviously that's beyond and above than just stealing signs. But, whatever. I have no problem with recording a game from the stands. Like, anybody can do that and post it on any social media site, and you can pick up anything you want off of it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that this is going on and it's such a spectacle, it tickles me to no end. It's great. And then the fact that Harbaugh won't answer any questions. Apparently, Tom says he's not allowed to. He's sitting in the press conference and they're asking him all these questions. And he's like, yeah, we feel real good. Team feels good. We're regenerated and, blah, blah, blah. It's like, what?
Harbaugh's not going to answer it anyways. He's a weird fellow to begin with.
Exactly. So I just find this whole thing just so funny.
Brandon, on a scale of 1 to 10, how big of a deal is this?
I mean,
let me rephrase. How big of a deal for this is it for Michigan?
So it depends on what truth is in the allegations. Where the truth lies, that depends on how big of a deal it is. Now, if they really gave this guy money and he goes around and he's like trying to infiltrate sidelines and he's doing all this other stuff, now that's a big deal. That's going above and beyond, what you would consider sign stealing. But everyone's trying to get an advantage and see what the signs and signals are and trying to, map it out or decipher what they are. That's fine. That's gamesmanship. That's part of it. But, to pay a guy and it's all secretive and he's, on the sideline. First off, if that's true, like, how the hell is he like part of the staff on the sidelines of the badge? That is just so funny to me. So I'm having a ball with this at this time, just because it's.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
Well, Tom, this has been. This scandal is on top of him being suspended, self-imposed suspension for the first 3 games of the season. What is the mood in Wolverine land?
Well, I'm going to start off by saying this. If they're found to be...
This is the rest of the show, by the way. Tom's monologue here.
If they're found... If there's evidence that they committed wrongdoing, then absolutely... bring the hammer of justice down on them. I'm not going to sit here as a Michigan fan and make excuses this and excuses that. If they're found to be in violation of the rules, then absolutely whatever the punishment is served to be fit, then they deserve it. But I think there's a situation here with Jim Harbaugh, and if anyone's listened or watched this show before, they know me. I am not a very big Jim Harbaugh fan. I fell out of favor with him a long time ago. He has since made improvements in my feelings towards him by doing what I felt like he should have did from day one, hiring the right coaches. He finally did that 3 years ago, and here we are. So I feel like he's one to not accept the basic answers. I think he pushes the envelope and he ruffles a lot of people's feathers. Obviously, what happened with Cheeseburger Gate, his open opinion about how schools make money, these tight TV contracts that they get, billions of dollars, and they don't share it with the players. He's very outspoken on that. He's not the very best friend of the NCAA, we'll say that. So I think we have a situation where somebody threw something into the fire, and let's face it, the fan bases have taken it to the nth degree on Twitter specifically. I know I've gotten into some heated arguments with some fake Buckeye fans. I'll just say that, and some Michigan State people. But I think this is a situation where social media has made this thing so big, and it's the only thing anyone's talking about. And yes, a picture comes out of Central Michigan sideline when they played Michigan State, and there's a guy on there who resembles Connor Stalions. It's not Connor Stalions, because 4 days prior to that picture being taken, there was a team photo of Connor Stalions has got a shaved head, and miraculously he has some hair.
Elon Musk jet tracking stuff going on here.
Right.
Where is this?
If you're going to be in a disguise, wouldn't you wear a wig too? Though? Yeah. You know, you could.
Yeah, it wasn't a wig. You could see there was hair, and it's just.
So I'm saying a wig and a hat. You know.
But here's the thing.
I mean, he wasn't wearing a Michigan jersey, so he probably wasn't him.
And of course, the speculation only gets deeper when who was the wide receiver coach at Michigan 4 years ago? McElwain, who's the head coach of Central Michigan. So, of course, social media is going to take this and run wild with it.
Hey, as a Vols fan, we have been screaming this from the first day we heard about the cash in McDonald's bags. Jerry Pruitt didn't invent that. He learned it from somebody.
But the bottom line here is Pete Thamel went on record and went on ESPN Game Day to say that the NCAA was in Ann Arbor interviewing coaches. That was a bold-faced lie. That never happened. The only people that were involved in Ann Arbor, the FBI for Matt Weiss, who was the OC last year, who was terminated for all indications he's a sick son of a you-know-what, found a lot of things on his computer. So you have a lot of people in high places of journalism that are making these bodacious claims, and it's crazy to me. But I want it to play out, and I know I've taken heat from a Notre Dame fan for my admittance of saying let's have the evidence play out. Let's see what happens, and then if they did something wrong, punish them. But I think a lot of people are jumping into conclusions, including Michigan fans, and it's just gotten out of control. And I was watching a show earlier today, and I think this summed it up perfect. If Harbaugh did something wrong, he's got to go. If the coaches did something wrong, they got to go. But who's the one entity that this hurts the most? And it's the players. So now the players are going into a huge game next weekend against Penn State. They've got a big monkey on their shoulders. And then obviously November 25th, this isn't going anywhere. So it's only going to get deeper and deeper and deeper. But the bottom line here is, the players, the student athletes are the ones that are really going to be punished if death penalty is ensued or they're not able to play in the Big Ten championship game, which all these people are claiming But let's pump the brakes again. I've taken heat for my comment of that, which is fine. I'll eat crow if it comes down to it. But definitely a situation of social media taking it and just making a mountain out of a molehill, basically.
And not to get on a soapbox, but social media is its own just evil empire. But yeah, and then I don't understand why these people, not throwing out any names, but these people who work for publications can just tweet their own opinions, and the editors can just ignore it and be like, well, you can't write that for our paper or our publication, but you can just tweet it on your own as your own individual, and there's no consequences. But
and mind you, real quick, not to cut you off,
yep.
The guy that broke this story, he's the one that broke the Manti Te'o fake girlfriend story, who rolled with for like 6 months on a story that was complete false, was complete lies. He's the one that is broke. Pete Thamel is the InfoWars version of sports broadcasting.
Wait, just to clear it up, he broke the story that the girlfriend was fake, or he's the one that wrote about the story of the girlfriend?
He was writing about the story of the girlfriend.
Okay. All right.
So
big difference. Big difference.
That tells you the
difference.
caliber of journalists that we're dealing with here.
So this is what's popped out in my mind. Why are none of the other coaches being like, "Oh, this is clearly a fireable," or like, "This is cheating. This is." I mean, I know if in my profession, just no one cares, but we're not. Attorneys aren't allowed to solicit people that we know need legal help. So, like, if I see if someone's in a car wreck in front of my office, I can't go. I'm help you sue the person that hit you. If I heard of people doing that, I would be pissed off and be like, "That's against the rules." No coaches, or at least on record, as saying that. And that, to me, well, one, is everybody doing this, or is it not a big deal? Brandon, what are your thoughts?
I think it's. I think it's like the coaches are, jury's still out kind of mentality. Like, yeah, everyone is trying to get an edge and look at the signs, blah, blah, blah. But like, how deep does this go? How much is BS? What's coming out? Like, there's no reason to make a statement about it at this point until evidence comes out. Like, let them finish their investigation and figure out what's going on. Like, it's dumb. Like, all it is clickbait at this point for all these social media outlets, all the news stations, especially ESPN. The first take, I don't know if you guys saw that today at all. I mean, it was just a parade, and like Feinbaum was on there just ripping Michigan and Stephen A. It was just, and they're like, "This is a disgrace," and blah. It's like there's no evidence yet.
Who 2 weeks ago they were defending it.
Yeah. Right. Whatever happened to innocent until proven guilty? That is no longer.
Not in this day and age.
Well, I will say,
and I'm not sticking up for Michigan because whatever. But it's just about the truth at this point. Like, where's the evidence? Let's get all the evidence and quit photoshopping or collaborating on whatever. But it wouldn't hurt my feelings if Michigan burned.
whenever you hear about something like that and you go back and look, or you look at things that are going on, I know at Tennessee games, when they're calling the plays, they put up these big black curtains around the play, like to not block the players, but they do block the stands from seeing what's happening. And so you got it. I mean, at first I thought it was just extreme paranoia, and then I'm thinking, well, yeah, I mean, this probably does go on. And then you think, because the three of us, we are both NFL and college football fans. Now, some of our audience may only be college football fans. And if you don't know this, then in the NFL, there's radios, and you just call the plays from your mic to the quarterback's headset, and he relays.
You have up to 15 seconds on the play clock.
Yeah, and then he relays them to the players, and they get up and they can still audible and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's no signs or whatever. Right. It's just you say, "Hey, run this play."
And so when you think about like, if instead of the NCAA coming in, Tom, you alluded to this, the NCAA, if they do come in and they do punish Michigan, they're going to be punishing future kids that are playing there. And so if you want to affect change, you affect change by the technology's there, changing the rules of how you call plays. Don't punish a program in the future because of it. And let's just say everything is true because the coach did, X, Y, and Z. What are your thoughts about that?
I think Matt Rule summed it up perfectly. And there's coaches, and he wouldn't go into detail of who flat out don't want to do this, which doesn't make any sense to me. But I think the bottom line is this is going to spark a lot of interest in the offseason, the rules committee to almost force these coaches' hands to put the in-helmet communications in. Because, like he said, they have them in high school and they have them in pros. Why not in college? I mean, college is in some markets, it's more marketed than the NFL. So you have a product that can be dummied down by a guy off the street in a sense. Yeah, he was a Marine, but he's come in and infiltrated other coaching circuits and deciphered signs and matched it up with the film that the NCAA puts out. I've got to believe there's more people out there doing that. I can't imagine, although this guy seems like he's might be a bit of a psychotic fan, having a 600-page manifesto about Michigan football. That's a whole nother level, whole nother conversation. But if that's happening, college football has a huge problem because there's a way to avoid that. And it's
I have not heard about the 600-page manifesto. This may need to be an entire show.
So somehow a third party.
No, let's make it an entire show. I want. Is it publicly available?
It's speculation at this point because there was a third party hired that somehow got a hold of his hard drives, and within that hard drive, allegedly, there was a 600-page manifesto how he had planned on becoming the head coach of Michigan football and how he would go about doing that. So the guy,
I've never wanted to read anything more.
The guy essentially was volunteering with the football team for a couple years. He made his presence known, and they kind of took a liking to him. These are all the reports that I'm hearing. And he needed a way to make money. And what has come out of this thing, supposedly, he had purchased a house, rented it out, slept in his car so he could make more money. And that's how he was able to afford to buy tickets and send people.
This is the alleged filmer.
This is the alleged situation with Connor Stallions. So clearly this has not been made public record officially. These are all secondhand stories. And I think the interesting part is who commissioned the third party investigation and what's the legalities of that you got a hold of someone's computer unknowingly. There's got to be some whole nother situation when it comes to that. So I think I'll come back to, this is a situation that has just evolved with nobody really knowing the facts. That is the definition of today's social media. And shame on me, shame on Spartan fans, shame on Ohio State fans that have just made this thing a powder keg, which has created a lot of speculation about the situation that who knows it's true. But I think there still is so much to come out. I don't think we get to the bottom of this situation for a year, maybe longer, because you know how the NCAA works. But I think there's just so much information and so much evidence that still needs to be uncovered. Rushing to judgment would be probably the wrong thing to do in this situation.
All right. So before we get to bet your nuts and make some people some money, Tom, if the premise is Jim Harbaugh is not the head coach at Michigan next season, is it his choice or Michigan's choice?
I think it's his choice. Right now, where we stand right now.
That's fair. Yeah, what we know now.
I think it'll be his choice. Because here's another false report that came out by Mr. Pete Thamel 2 days ago that the Board of Regents rescinded their offer.
Yeah,
there was never an offer.
Yeah.
And B, Santa Ono, whose first thing he did when he became president of the University of Michigan last year was, we're going to get this football program where it needs to be. I have faith in Jim Harbaugh, and I'm going to show him that we want him here. And he's pressured Warren Manuel to get him this extension. So he went to the Board of Regents on Sunday morning and said, get it done immediately. And they were unanimous in their decision to put together an extension. It hasn't been released what that extension is, and we don't know if Jim Harbaugh's actually seen it or if he plans to sign it. But another story that came out by this reporter that was debunked, which created a whole nother hailstorm on Sunday, or actually it came out on Saturday that it was rescinded. But the reality was it was paused, and we don't even know if that was true. But it's just it's mind blowing to me.
Sounds like sports talk radio is easy money up there at the moment. All right, now boys, let's make some kids some money.
It's time for Bet Your Nuts.
All right, we're talking 5 games this week. It's a pretty decent slate. Nothing great, but there's a few big games. We're gonna start down in Austin, where K-State goes to Texas. Texas is getting minus 4.5 points. We saw where they're in the football rankings. They can't afford to drop any. Tom, what do you got for this one?
I think prior to last week, there was a little uncertainty how Texas would come out. It seems like their backups met the call. He played really well. This game's in Austin. K-State's a good story, but I think you're going into a buzzsaw down there, and I think this game could be about a touchdown win. So give me the Longhorns.
Brandon, what do you got?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a result of Quinn Ewers being injured and not available. So I think it's a 10-point game here. I mean, Texas is rolling right now. I like Texas for sure.
I like Kansas State, but you guys convinced me into Texas. I just don't really like Texas, so I'm not gonna let my biases take hold. So the triple on Texas. Next, we have a team that I said was going to lose 4 games in Notre Dame at Clemson, who has lost 4 games, and you've got Clemson plus 3 at home, a place they rarely lose. But this is what seems to be the wheels falling off of a prominent program here in the last decade. Brandon, we'll start with you.
Give me Notre Dame all day. Clemson is god-awful, and they screwed my parlay in Vegas last week. First game out of the stint. I won every other game except for that one. They screwed. They're terrible. Clemson,
I feel like there should be two mercy rules in Vegas. If you get every game of your parlay wrong, you should win. And if you only miss by 1, get half your money back.
Dude, I had a 19 parlay in it. I killed it. I swear I did. It was crazy. I just, I threw like $15 on it, but I could have won $1,200. And Clemson was the only one that lost.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
for those of you who aren't watching, I about just spit my drink out all over my
I did.
equipment.
Well, it's like when in Vegas, I was like, let's go. So I went through the card and I did that.
Tom, who do you got?
I think we all know the Dabo era could possibly coming to an end here very soon. His stance on NIL, his unwillingness to embrace it, reflects his current record of 4-4, if I'm not mistaken. With that being said, I don't think he loses this week. Home game, his back is against the wall. He's cornered. His own fans on his radio show called up to today or this week and said, "How are we paying you $11.5 million a year for a 4-4 record?" And he pretty much didn't have a whole lot to say about it, but I think they find a way to rally behind their coach. And Notre Dame they've looked really good the last 2 weeks. They destroyed Pitt last week. So, but on the road, it's kind of a different story. So I think they go into Death Valley and Clemson comes out with the win. So give me Clemson.
Oh, so for you gamblers, if you want a little extra juice, Clemson money line, Tom says.
Yeah, give me Clemson.
I'm with you, Tom. I think Dabo is at the end of the road, but I don't think it ends here. Notre Dame still is going to lose 4 games, so I am going Clemson at home.
Woo! I'm the lone wolf on this one. Huh?
Brandon the Wolf.
Now we have UGA.
I'm so bitter about Clemson, so they need to lose every game and just
UGA at home minus number 16. We have the 2 versus the number 12 ranked team. I think is it Missouri 12 or 13?
Yep, Missouri's 12. Good story.
Brandon, are you laying the 16 with the Dogs?
Man, this is a tough one for me. Georgia's starting to come into.
Is that the 3:30 game?
Their.
No, I bet that.
Yes, it's 3:30. It's 3:30.
So Alabama, let's use it 9th then, I guess.
It is 3:30.
Yeah, 7:45.
Yeah, I mean, 16 is still a lot of points. Missouri's been playing good. I still, man, I'm a coin flip here. So 50-50, give me Missouri just because I want to see Georgia lose.
So
But
you're
they're
going
not going to
Missouri.
lose the game. Yeah, Missouri to cover. Georgia's going to win the game.
All right, Tom.
I'm following suit. I think 16 is a huge number. Missouri's played really well. Their defense is strong. This game being in Georgia gives them the advantage. So I do think Missouri covers here. 10, 13-point game, but 16 seems really high to me. Not having Brock Bauer hasn't really affected them the last couple of weeks, but it will at some point. Maybe it's this week. Maybe it's in a couple of weeks against Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Missouri will cover here.
I think Georgia solidifies themselves as the best team in the country this week. I think this is too big for Missouri to chew. Going into Athens, it's going to be is game day there this weekend? Where's game day?
Game day is in Tuscaloosa.
Oh, for Alabama LSU. All right. Well, Kirby Smart's the happiest coach in America this week. They got slided after winning two championships in a row. I think Georgia comes out and beats them down.
All right. You're the lone wolf there.
All right. So Raj, who can't be too busy to show up, we got this game for him. Washington, their first road test at Southern Cal. I'll go first on this one.
7:30 kick.
So
hopefully this isn't on the Pac-12 network.
Yeah, night game, Southern Cal. Unfortunately, Southern Californians don't care about college football. I think this is really the death knell on Caleb Williams. Any kind of talk of Heisman, if there is any more. UW sets themselves up as a top 4 team. Getting points, even though it's on the road, I will take Washington. Brandon?
Yeah, I'll follow you there. I think USC could get embarrassed in this game, to be honest. Caleb Williams, his talk of Heisman is gone. USC just has not looked good as a whole unit this year. So I think it's a blowout.
Yeah. Tom?
USC, I think I saw somewhere they're the 130th ranked defense in the country. Gave up 49 points to Cal last week. And it took a miraculous comeback
Barely
in
survived.
the fourth quarter. Cal goes for 2. They miss it. USC gets the win. Washington's not Cal. The fact that this is only a 3.5 point spread is kind of the mind-boggling stat of the week here. I think this could be a 2 touchdown, maybe 17-point win for Washington. I think they jump out on them early and often. Clearly, Washington needs a huge win because they know Oregon's nipping at their heels, even though they just beat them. So the Caleb Williams talk will come to an end. I firmly believe he's kind of cemented himself as the villain of the season, and I don't think it stops this week. So Washington, big.
Yeah, this would be, if you're gonna bet both nuts on one pick, this would be the pick I would bet on.
For sure, 100%.
All right, so now we go to where game day is going to be. LSU in Tuscaloosa, night game. Alabama hosting and getting -3 points. Trivia question: who is the only quarterback to beat Nick Saban 2 times in a row?
Joe Burrow.
Is it Joe Burrow? Yeah.
It is not Joe Burrow.
Your favorite quarterback.
So Tom,
it's got to be a Tennessee quarterback. Let me see.
The only quarterback to beat him twice. I don't know who's the LSU quarterback.
I'll give
Travis?
you a hint. I'll give you a hint.
Travis.
It's in y'all's conference.
Oh, in the Big Ten, who's only beat him twice? Current quarterback.
No. The only quarterback ever beat him twice in a row.
Oh, huh. Is it JT or a Buckeye quarterback?
No. We only beat him once.
I'll give you a hint. It's an impossible place to win on the road.
Oh, Drew Brees.
Drew Brees. There you go.
Yeah.
When he was at Michigan State.
Yeah.
No, he played at Purdue.
No. When Saban was at Michigan State.
When Saban was at Michigan State.
Yeah.
Oh.
See, he threw the curveball there. Like, we were trying to think who played Alabama, but it was actually who played at Michigan State.
All right. So what do you got?
You got
boys? What's the LSU quarterback name? Does he become the second one?
Daniels.
Daniels. Does Daniels become the second quarterback to beat Saban twice in a row?
Alabama is not going to lose 2 home games in the same season. Man of the family will not go in Tuscaloosa and pull out a victory. I think Alabama, on the backs of their defense and their run game, because I still don't trust Milroe. I think he does just enough, but their defense gets the job done here.
Brandon?
Man, I really want LSU to win this game, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be a close game. I like 3 points. I would take Bama here, even though I don't want to.
I will make it unanimous. Yeah, I think it's close, but I think Alabama gets a late score, gets some calls, weird, and covers the spread.
What are you saying weird for, I wonder?
Has some guy on the sidelines filming
Yeah.
signs.
Yeah, with this Ray-Bans with camera, right?
Speaking of late
Yeah,
calls,
so
side note, I was playing Madden last night. My wife's out of town, so I'm a bachelor, so I'm playing Madden. I'm in overtime. I get called for roughing the passer. I'm like, is that even a thing in video games? Like, and I lose in overtime. Talking about
Seems like
bad Alabama
seems
calls.
oxymoronic.
Yeah. So, all right, boys. Final thoughts. We will let Tom go last since I'm sure he may have some. I'll start off. Just happened right before we got on air. The news of Bobby Knight passing took the college sports world.
Stole my thunder.
I spent some time in Bloomington, Indiana. Um, Bobby Knight was a complicated, disciplined, undisciplined individual. I've read his book, read articles all about him. Just an interesting, complex individual, but no doubt one of the, I mean, top 10 coaches in sports history, I think, at least in my opinion.
Fair to say.
So rest in peace, Bob Knight. And yeah, Brandon.
well said, man. I think we're all probably going to say a little something on that, so I'll keep it short. Just Bob Knight. I mean, what a transcending coach he was in the basketball world in general, not just college, but um, 83 long years. That's a good life. I hope I make it to 83. So RIP for sure. But one other thing on a good note, my Buckeyes are number one. Let's go, baby.
All right, Tommy Toes, we'll leave it to you.
My final words today, there's 3 words. Fake ass fans. And what I mean by that is I've kind of come into a situation with people coming at me about this Michigan scandal that are Buckeye fans and have no allegiance, have no affiliation, have no reason to be Buckeye fans other than they're a winning program. And what program wasn't winning prior to the 2 years? Michigan. So I have a problem with fair-weathered fans. If you're not true to who yourself, if you have no affiliation, Brandon, your family's born and raised in Ohio, you're 100% scarlet and gray through and through. I respect that. I could be the same way. My father is born and raised in Ohio. He's a Buckeye fan to the core. I decided in my early teen years, I wanted to follow the team that I grew up with, Michigan. So I just have a really big problem with people coming at me that have no affiliation to a program other than they're winning. And I think as a fan base, that's embarrassing. And there's a whole lot of things that I could say, a whole lot more I could say, because there's an individual that is also the fan of a hockey team that's on the other side of the country. So, and I've been hit hard from these people, and it has taken every fiber of my being to not chomp back. But I digress. Be better, and if your team's losing, stand by them. I never lost my fandom of Michigan. I still was going to Ann Arbor. I still was rooting for them the last Saturday of November, knowing damn well we were going to get boat raced. But you know what? That's okay, because I'm a Michigan man through and through. I always will be, come win, lose, or draw.
Well said.
Yes, very
Fake
well
ass
said.
fans.
Well, all right, gentlemen. Until next week, we'll see how we do. I've got our wagers in my super official system. And then we'll go and if you guys really want to make some money, parlay all of my bets. All right, we're
like and subscribe.
Like, subscribe, follow, do all the fancy things below these podcasts that you see. There we go. Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it.
I got to get that new logo on there.
YouTube. I think YouTube's gonna be the only one that's free here, coming pretty soon. So follow us on YouTube, like, subscribe.
Absolutely.
Tune in for our NFL show.
Yes,
that'll be tomorrow night at 7 p.m.
Yes, this should be dropping on.
This is live. We're live right now.
We are live. Nothing like it.
Our NFL show is tomorrow night at 7.
There we go, folks. We are live, but then our NFL show's tomorrow. Obviously, I'm on top of it. All right. Thank you very much.
Go Blue. Thanks for listening to another episode of Reckless Speculation. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, searching Reckless Speculation. Catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We look forward to catching you right here next week with another exciting episode of Reckless Speculation.